Welcome to Kitchen Table Conversations, a series of short and shareable conversation starters for those of us who have or love and support people with a complicated and beautiful brain. Here's your host, Angela Geddes.
Hi, everyone, and welcome back to another edition of Kitchen Table Conversations. Or I guess I shouldn't assume that everybody's coming back. I hope that most of you are coming back, but I would certainly like to welcome a few of you who might just be listening for the very first time. I'm really pleased that you're here, and this is a pretty busy month for many of us who are in the field working with individuals and families who have been impacted by prenatal alcohol exposure and who may be looking for some diagnostic clarification, or maybe they already do have a full diagnosis of fetal alcohol spectrum disorder. We know that our system is not really equipped to deal with some of the complexities, and certainly not the number of people who have been impacted. And so we need to continue to have conversations like this to build awareness and capacity within our own homes, capacity within our communities, and certainly within our social service delivery system in order to address the complexities in a way that's really helpful and meaningful and works towards, safety and dignity and reducing the stigma that's so often attached with everything to do with mental health. Although it might be getting a little bit better, there's still a significant stigma, and it's more intense when we talk about all the misconceptions surrounding fetal alcohol spectrum disorder. So we're talking a lot about that this month, again, because it is the month that's set aside internationally to focus on awareness and prevention and increase support and support services opportunities. And it's the 9th month of the year, which represents the 9 month of pregnancies, or the 9 months of a pregnancy, and September the 9th is actually the day. And oftentimes at 9 a.m. there is a ringing of the bells or some sort of symbolic activity in various locations amongst your local towns. I suggest that you kind of look it up and see what maybe you could become involved in, because again, that's representative of the 9 months of pregnancy where we're asking people to consider not consuming alcohol during that time. And now I'm going to go a little bit further to say that we should probably consider the 3 months prior to conception and some time afterwards while we're nursing our babies or breastfeeding our babies as well, because we know that there's no safe time, amount, or type of alcohol to consume, even at the time of conception. Today, we're going to talk about some of the hidden risks and the power and the importance of sharing really accurate information. And that's just certainly not always the case when it comes to mental health in general. There's a lot of TikTok experts out there, for example, and a lot of times people want to dismiss some of the evidence, particularly when it comes to suggesting that we shouldn't be drinking alcohol for any reason in particular, but certainly when it comes to pregnancies, people are still a little bit resistant to hearing that message. But I think there's a fact that many people don't know, and that is that well over 50% of pregnancies are unplanned. Some say 60, some say 70, but we can safely say that well over 50 are unplanned. And so that means there's often a period, and sometimes for a fair number of weeks, where a person might be socially consuming alcohol, maybe even smoking cigarettes or engaging in marijuana use or other medications and substances that pose a risk to the unborn baby before they even realize that they're pregnant. So I've had so many conversations about this exact issue this summer in particular. Picture weddings, picture barbecues, vacations. I've had people tell me, I was pregnant and went on a 7-day all-inclusive honeymoon, and I consumed a lot of alcohol during that time. Unbeknownst to me, I was actually already pregnant when I went. So then there's the fear, then there's the worry, then there's the concern, and how do we balance that out by still sharing really important information? And because early pregnancy symptoms can be really subtle for some, alcohol exposure during those critical first weeks of development, they're far more common than what people think they are. In fact, when people ask, did you drink during your pregnancy? People do not even consider the time that there was social drinking or even small amounts or maybe large amounts of alcohol consumed prior to when they were aware. So I recently shared one of our new PSAs to a service provider that was actually working with me at the time. And her reaction, she said, "My gosh, you've given me goosebumps." And it kind of gave me chills to listen to the way that she spoke. She said, "I have goosebumps. I'm thinking about my friends. I'm thinking about myself, who wasn't aware that I was pregnant when I went on my honeymoon. And now I'm realizing that my friends were telling me just very recently that their physician was saying that if you cut the liquor or the hard alcohol with a soft drink or a mix of some sort, you can drink the occasional glass of alcohol, Anyway, so the information that she got from the physician was misleading. It was not based on evidence at all. And this girl proceeded to drink alcohol throughout her pregnancy. And now she's got children who are really, really struggling. They're struggling with dysregulation. They're struggling with peer interactions. They're struggling with, listening or what's often seen to be as defiance. And this woman who was talking to me said that her parenting skills and strategies are not working, and there's a lot of judgment around that. And people don't even want to go over to visit with this family anymore because there just seems to be chaos and conflict all the time. And so she said to me, "We've always just assumed it was kind of poor parenting, but now I'm wondering if there's more to it. In fact, I'm pretty sure there is." And so that's the moment that we're working for, when the light bulb goes on and when people start to see beyond judgment to the underlying reality. Now, this is still hard to take. It's not an easy diagnosis to accept. It's not an easy diagnosis to go looking for clarity around. There is an awful lot of pain and a whole bunch of feelings that go along with the understanding that some of our habits or our social encounters and some of our decisions would lead or could lead to some significant learning, developmental, mental, emotional, behavioral challenges in our young people. Nobody wants to do this on purpose. But unfortunately, some medical professionals still give rather permissive advice. An occasional drink is fine as long as you mix it, as I mentioned, or just limit your number. But this is not supported by evidence. As I've said before, and I'll say it again, there is no amount of alcohol that is proven safe at any stage of the pregnancy. And that's a fact. So some people ask me, this service provider in particular asked, aren't you afraid that you're going to scare people or make people feel guilty for drinking during their pregnancy before they were aware? And I said, absolutely, that concerns me a great deal. I wish that I never had to have this conversation. I wish that I wish that alcohol did not impact baby development. I wish that nothing interfered with our baby's development and helping them to reach their potential. But I also know that people want and deserve the truth. People want to be able to make informed decisions. And when we're giving out misinformation and when we're dismissing the realities that come with the evidence, then we're not doing all we can to protect our babies, even though that's what we want. There's a number of reasons why some of the evidence is being dismissed, but we need to do more around our own kitchen tables to change that. Accurate information is not about blame. It's not at all. The FASD and the effects of alcohol exposure, whether it be increased risk of anxiety or depression or ADHD or some symptoms that resemble autism spectrum disorder or some learning disabilities, no matter what it is, again, nobody does this on purpose and nobody wants this for their growing babies. But it is about empowerment. It's about allowing people to make really good decisions that are going to increase the likelihood of optimum health. It helps prevent exposure in future pregnancies. It helps families of children already affected understand what's happening and stop blaming themselves and their parenting strategies that are just not working, and allow them to access supports that help them realize that, your typical parenting strategies won't be working, but let's try some different ones. And let's try to really meet individuals and children and youth and young adults and even older adults who've been exposed to alcohol prenatally reach their potential. So if you want to help, if this is at all interesting or intriguing to you, which I'm guessing it probably will be because FASD is in all of our circles, I think I need to highlight that the latest research from Canada's FASD Research Network indicates that in North America, we have an 8% prevalence rate. So that means 8% of North Americans. And again, please remember that this is low estimated, because although our research is awesome and our researchers are amazing and they, really cross their T's and dot their I's and make sure that they're getting accurate information and not just trying to scare the bejeepers out of people, we have to realize that people have a right to participate in some of these studies and they have a right to decline. And because of the stigma and because of the fear associated with acknowledging alcohol use during pregnancy, and just because we don't feel good about it, there are times where people just don't want to participate in these studies. So we know there's more people out there who have been affected that are not part of these numbers. So North Americans, 8%, that's really close to 10%. It probably is. 10% is a lot of people. In Ontario, that means that we have 600 and some thousand people who do not have access to an assessment and proper diagnosis. In Canada, that means we have 1.6 million Canadians who should have an FASD diagnosis who do not, for the most part. And we just can't afford to let this misinformation continue to profoundly and negatively impact individuals and families. The cost, the emotional, financial, and societal cost is too high. We have to look at our homeless population. We have to look at our people who are struggling with employment and financial security. We have to look at our child protection services and our justice departments and our special education departments and know for a fact that a large number of the consumers within those domains have been affected by prenatal alcohol and substance exposure, but most of the time they just don't know it. So when we're, typical, I always say this, typical mental health strategies work. Typical parenting strategies work. People do not need stellar parents. They need parents who are present. They need parents who love them. They need parents who will continue to offer them safe space and guide them. But they don't need perfection in order to, learn societal norms and to be able to participate successfully at school and in community and within their families. When things go south, when there's extreme behaviors, there's usually something else going on. And we do need to become more curious about that. And we do need to know that in many cases, with the right information and with the right supports, prenatal alcohol exposure can be prevented. Thanks so much for listening. Thanks for joining me today on Kitchen Table Conversations. If you like what you're hearing, please feel free to share, sign up for the newsletter. We do have a couple of brand new PSAs, public service announcements, that are available on YouTube that certainly can be shared through all social media platforms. So we encourage you to do that to help spread the word. It's up to all of us to support healthy pregnancies, healthy children, healthy communities. And it does take a village to raise a child. With many thanks. Angela.